Gin does games, haha! Hello ladies and gentlemen, Gin here with another League of Legends champion guide for you. Today we're discussing Veigar, the tiny master of evil. He likes to think himself a villainous megalomaniac, but really? How could he be? Look at him, he's so cute and adorable.
I am evil! Stop laughing!
Right, sorry. Let's learn how to Veigar. Veigar is a short-ranged burst mage, specializing in nuking down single targets, especially other mages. As such, you'll find him mostly in the mid lane, but on occasion you can see him played as a support as well. Unlike most burst mages, he provides some utility in team fights, packing one of the most powerful stuns in the game. His passive is Equilibrium. For every 1% of mana he's missing, Veigar's mana regeneration is increased by 1%. For those in the know, this is exactly the same as the Chalice of Harmony's Mana Font passive, and they stack together if you decide to get him. Similarly, it increases bonus mana regeneration from other sources as well, like the blue buff. While this doesn't affect his combat potential per se, it does help him out throughout the game, letting him completely forego mana items if you so choose. The Yordle's Q is Baleful Strike. Now here's where things start to get interesting. To start, it's a very simple damage spell. You point at something, it takes magic damage. If you happen to kill a target with Baleful Strike, Veigar permanently gains a point of ability power. If it's a large minion, a large monster, or a champion, you get 2 points instead. Additionally, as a passive that scales with the ability's level, if you kill an enemy champion with any source of damage at all, even a basic attack, Veigar gains additional bonus ability power. So, combining these together, if you happen to kill an enemy champion with your max-ranked Baleful Strike as the final blow, you gain 7 bonus AP. Obviously, this is a very important spell, helping Veigar snowball and scale into damage faster than most other mages, even into infinity as the game continues. We'll come back to this one later, but for now, know to take a point in it at level 1 and max it out first. Our evil midget's W is Dark Matter. Veigar calls down a dark meteor from the sky, dealing significant magic damage to all enemies in a small area after the brief time it takes to fall. As a small bonus, the meteor will provide vision of the area it's about to hit just before it lands. Good for checking bushes. Dark Matter is his longest ranged and hardest hitting basic spell, but because it takes a moment to land, it can often be dodged. Fortunately, Veigar has a way around that, but it's still not the most reliable thing in the world. Though the damage scales up quite well with the ability level, it can get quite expensive to cast. So, combined with its unreliability, take a point in it at level 4 and max it out last. Luckily, it scales at a 1-to-1 ratio with your ability power, so it's going to scale up hard anyway, even when you're not putting points in it. Calling his E Event Horizon is an interesting choice. There's no gravitational effect about it, but it's certainly hard to escape from. When activated, Veigar creates a circular cage in which to trap his foes. They can move around freely inside, but if they touch the edge, they are stunned. And oh what a stun it is. At max ranks, this thing lasts for 2.5 seconds, and regardless of the level, the cage lasts for 3. Any sort of movement across its perimeter will cause a stun, be it walking, a dash, or even being pulled by Blitzcrank. The only way to escape is through blink abilities or teleports, like Flash or Kassadin's Riftwalk, anything where they don't travel through the intervening space. As one of the strongest stuns in the game, and one that can hit multiple enemies at once, take a point in this at level 2 and max it out second. And finally, the Mage Killer. The Tiny Master of Evil presents Primordial Burst. Just like Baleful Strike, this is a single target magic damage spell. Same range and everything. The difference is this one deals massive damage, scaling not only with your ability power, but your enemies as well. Your opponents better think twice before building AP, because Veigar will just use it against them. That's what they get for being so tall. The bigger they are, the harder they fall. For maximum damage, take a point in this every chance you can. Now, as we get into the next bit, I need to stress that Veigar is not a late game champion. He does scale into the late game, but he shines in the middle game, blowing folks up left and right before they've had time to buy a bunch of defenses against him. As such, what we take is going to be geared toward that 100%. For summoner spells, exactly as one might expect from any burst mage, take Flash and Ignite. The Flash especially, as the Yordle is quite immobile with those tiny feet of his. Ignite, of course, because we need all the damage we can get. Runes are a bit more complicated, as we have some options for you. Magic penetration marks are always the best choice, but consider flat health seals and flat magic resistance glyphs if your opponent is AP based, or flat armor seals and flat AP glyphs versus AD. And then take either flat ability power or movement speed quintessences at your own discretion. More damage is always nice, but movement speed is important for making sure you stay close enough to nuke your opponents down. For masteries, go for 2109, getting as much damage in the offense tree as possible. That point in Butcher is quite useful as it affects your Baleful Strike as well. Have to make sure that when you use it on a minion, it kills. In the utility tree, the movement speed is much more important than the mana regeneration, as Equilibrium will take care of most of that for you. When building him in game, start with a Doran's Ring, or, for difficult matchups, a Crystalline Flask. This is our only early concession to defense, but often a necessary one. Mini mages are stronger before level 6, so Veigar needs to be wary. Once he can start blowing things up though, all hell breaks loose. Feel free to grab additional Doran's Rings as well. They help with any mana problems you have and shore up your weaknesses. On my first back, I like to get a second one and a pair of boots. Those boots, of course, will become a pair of sorcerer's shoes when you feel necessary. The first item you really want to rush for, though, is a Deathfire Grasp. Not only does it give you tons of AP and cooldown reduction, it's a strong damage spell in its own right on a rather short cooldown that buffs up your other spells. It's pretty much essential to playing Veigar. Next up, we have Rabadon's Death Cap, followed by Void Staff. Because when I said we needed more damage, I meant it. And sure, he has a staff and pointy hat already, but he can always use another. For your final slots in the late game, consider some concessions to defense. Zhonya's Hourglass is great in case you get caught out, and of course gives you quite a bit more AP to boot. Abyssal Scepter has you covered if you happen to have some trouble with other casters, and the aura works within range of most of your spells. Lastly, Banshee's Veil is a common choice to stop Veigar's high damage assault. Well, he can use it too. You're squishy, so grabbing one of these to prevent stuns or lockdowns is really handy. Also, I'd like to mention these two as a lot of people suggest them. Tear of the Goddess and Athene's Unholy Grail. Should you take these? Short answer, no. Long answer, no. Tear of the Goddess doesn't actually do anything for you until way in the late game, long past when you want to get the ball rolling. Getting Athene's early, when you'd benefit most from the passive, really detracts from your ability to kill things early. Rush damage. Rush, rush, rush. If you're having trouble with running out of mana, you're casting spells too often. While it may seem optimal to spend all your time using Baleful Strike to kill minions, that's not entirely the case. It is an extremely strong harassment spell. With a couple levels and a few well-placed shots of it, you can drive your opponents out of the lane, or low enough that once you hit 6, you can immediately kill them. You must find the balance of using it to last hit and using it to harass. But of course, always try to kill the siege minions with it as they count for double. Try to balance around 2 to 300 available mana, leaving you available to stun as necessary or drop your combo on them. There's no shame in last hitting with basic attacks. With Doran's Ring, it'll recover mana too. Consider the bonus AP from your Q just that, a bonus. If you get a blue buff, which your jungler should try to get to you every chance they can, feel free to cast your spells with impunity. Pretty much lets you last hit with your Q every time it's off cooldown, while still leaving you mana to do other things. Once you've got your ult, and preferably your Deathfire Grasp, be looking to get a kill every chance you can. It doesn't have to be on the enemy mages either. The stun from Event Horizon makes Veigar an exceptional ganker, and the amount of damage he can put out lets him end it very quickly and be back in mid lane in time for T, or the next minion wave, whichever comes first. When you get around to team fights, Veigar still contributes more than most burst mages, what with his stun and the AoE of dark matter, however small it is. You can, like most burst casters or assassins, seek out the enemy marksmen and burst them down, but that might not be best depending on the enemy team. Since your ult is such a powerful mage killer, and Veigar isn't exactly very mobile, consider waiting in back with your carry instead. Let them come to you so you can incinerate them without the hassle of chasing. Since he is a burst mage, you want to be casting your spells as quickly as possible, so be sure to turn on quick casting. Now this may make things a little difficult when trying to land your event horizon, but you can get it with practice. In most cases, you don't want to let them roam free inside the cage. Rather, it's better to land the edge of the cage right on top of them. Try to lead your target, aiming a short distance closer or farther away from them to catch with the edge. Turn on range indicators if it'll help you practice. Lastly, as a burst mage, he has a number of combos available. Veigar deals massive damage such that you don't necessarily use all your spells to kill a single target. Try to be aware of just how much damage you can deal before choosing how you wreck face. The simplest and most basic of these is RQ. Remember that you want to always be casting Q last, if possible, so that you get the bonus ability power for doing so. Against mages in the early game, this combo is often easily enough to knock them over, especially when you first get it. Have them harassed down to half health, take them to 0. Once you've bought your Deathfire Grasp, add that to the front of the combo. It'll increase the damage of everything else and allow you to take out much tankier targets. If you need all your damage brought to bear, stun them with E and then drop your Dark Matter. Follow this up with the rest of your combo. Most of it, or at very least the Deathfire Grasp, should hit before the Dark Matter falls, leaving a sticky smear on the floor where there once was an enemy. Veigar is a powerful, if silly, nuking mage. Land your stuns, drop your combos, and you'll lead your team to victory. So thanks for watching, everyone. If you've enjoyed this guide, please let me know by hitting the like button. Speak up in the comments below if you have advice or questions. We're all here to learn. Subscribe for future stuff like guides, gameplay, and general silliness. Follow me on Twitch for streams and Twitter and Facebook to see what else is going on. Till next time, I've been Gin, and you've been watching me talk about a video game. So what are you waiting for?
Suffering awaits!